Hello literature connoisseurs. Let's begin chapter 6 of Tribulation Force. The chapter begins with Buck speaking to Nicolae, and Buck becomes annoyed by the stalling Nicolae seems to be doing. It gets said that Nicolae is annoying Buck again and that Buck hates how Nicolae does this. Not sure how this is a habit of Nicolae's when this is the first time he has done this. Nicolae asks if Buck remembers when he promised he could make all his problems go away. Buck does and recalls that the whole affair ended with Nicolae killing his two best friends. Nicolae drones on and on about how things fix themselves and he does not have to influence events. He asks Buck if he understands him, but Buck, like the reader, has no clue what he is talking about. He is just basically lying about not being involved. However, this whole exchange is all nonsense and just wasting the reader's time. Nicolae states that the murders benefited both of them because otherwise he would have to bring them to justice. Nicolae then ascribes those events to good karma. Then he makes a strange statement. He says that all this is enough to make an atheist believe in God. Not if the atheist is a true skeptic. Following Nicolae's narrative, Stengel was stressed out by the idea of Nicolae calling the cops and arresting him. He commits suicide, which results in the death of Todd C. This causes his and Buck's problems to go away. Even if it is true, which we know it is not, this is still mere coincidence and not miraculous. Not sure why an atheist would believe in a god over that. It seems like lame hyperbole on Nicolae's part. This could also be a knock against Christians that brag that they were former atheists. Most of their stories resonate false to other atheists because of the foolishness that led them to believe in a god. While I am waiting to hear a different, honest, account, all repeat the same story. They claim they were atheists and then they studied evolution and found it to be false somehow, but they can't explain why. They then became a Christian. This seems hyperbole on their part because regardless of whether evolution is true or not, that has nothing to do with a god existing. Just because they no longer believe in evolution, it does not mean that a god is the only other option to believe in. Whether you believe in evolution, it has nothing to do with whether a god exists. There are theists that believe in evolution and there are theists that do not believe in evolution. Just as there are atheists that believe in evolution and there are atheists that do not believe in evolution. For someone to base their beliefs on if a god exists or not due to evolution, it is a non sequitur fallacy. Because their ideas do not coherently follow each other. Nicolae monologues about his greatness and false humility. He then tells Buck he has an offer for him that he cannot refuse. Scene changes to Rayford as he finishes a call to Bruce asking to meet with him. He wants to discuss the note from Hattie, but so far he wants to keep it secret from everyone. Again, not sure why that should matter and why they need to keep secrets from each other. He ends the call and immediately receives another call. This one is from Chloe and she tells him that his boss has been trying to reach him. So no one tried his cell phone? If they did, then he did not hear the clicking, meaning he had another call coming in? I mean, how long did it honestly take for Bruce to tell him that he doesn't offer advice because it's not the job of a pastor to do that? Insert eye roll. Rayford is completely surprised that his boss would call because he should have known that Rayford was getting his testing done. He invites her to join him when he talks to Bruce, but she refuses because she starts acting childish again. Scene changes back to Buck and he suddenly feels brave and wants to put Nicolae in his place by telling him what. Nicolae then threatens him but tries to play it off that he is not threatening him. Buck presses him and Nicolae says some word salad about how he never uses fear to motivate people. Unlike God, who uses the threat of hell to control people. Nicolae then blatantly tells Buck he has an offer that he cannot refuse. Scene changes to Rayford as he calls his boss. His boss tells him that he needs to come to the office right away. Rayford asks what's up and his boss gets sassy by saying that if he could talk to him over the phone then he would not call him to the office. Amazing how unprofessional all this is. It seems as if the authors have never worked a day in their lives and this drivel passes for what they think is real life. Scene changes back to Buck as Nicolae is being incredibly boring by offering Buck huge portions of word salad. For no apparent reason. Nicolae then drones on about how everyone has to obey laws and some weird example about how concession stands at sporting events work. This eventually leads to Nicolae explaining that he wants to buy different media sources and Buck is to run them because he wants only positive news broadcasted, not the usual drivel they produce. Buck pushes back by asking if that is lawful, and this pushes Nicolae back into word salad. Nicolae brags about his wealth but tries to sound humble by saying money does not matter to him. Buck begins to daydream like the rest of us and he starts thinking about Chloe. He eventually thinks that God is planting thoughts of her in his mind so that he can resist Nicolae's mind control. Not sure why God needs to put those thoughts in his head, and God could simply make him immune in the first place. Nicolae keeps interrupting these thoughts by asking Buck about his hopes and dreams. Nicolae then again proposes that Buck runs his media company. He offers to give him a staff, prestige, and money. The scene changes as Nicolae is ready to close the deal. Rayford enters the office of his boss. He get into a discussion about Rayford trying to convert people to his religion, and Rayford becomes obnoxious. His boss asks him very straightforward questions, but Rayford pretends to not understand as he tries dodging them. He keeps trying to push that he loves his boss, so that's why he thinks rules don't apply to him. He thinks if he says that he loves someone, then he can keep trying to force his religion on them even after they have asked him to stop. Funny how Christians think they can force their religion onto others and they have to accept it, but when the roles are reversed and say a Muslim tries to convert them, then their attitudes change to it being wrong to force religion onto others. Furthermore, supposedly loving someone is respecting their decision and not constantly trying to force them to do what you want. Rayford then states that because he loves someone, that gives him the power to ignore their opinions because he doesn't care about them, only his opinion matters. Skipping ahead past Rayford's BS, we learn that another complaint was filed against Rayford. It seems the examiner claims that Rayford tried to force his religion on him during the testing. Rayford protests, but based on his actions he refuses to believe Rayford. Scene changes to Buck and he learns that Nicolae has had to stand up to the President of the United States. Really nothing of interest here, and the scene suddenly changes back to Rayford. He gets told again that the new Air Force One is a 757. This makes him recall Hattie's note that was left for him. This ends the chapter of Childish Force, and it appears to end the chapter on a cliffhanger of sorts. See you next time for Chapter 7.